Come with me, I'm headed down the right path. I feel so brave, my head held high and I'm showing class. Dreams ignited, every day I truly give my best. I'm thriving excitedly to be the very best version of myself. I'm so bold and I'm so brilliant. I feel amazing, I feel so resilient. I'm so bold and I'm so brilliant. Feel so amazing, I feel so resilient.
My next guest is the co-founder, principal, and chief visionary officer of Reiches Capital Management and the author of Maximize Your Return on Life, Invest Your Time and Money in What You Value Most. With more than 30 years of experience in wealth management, she and I discuss holiday budgeting, smart holiday shopping, and alternative gift ideas. Shari Greco Reiches, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you today?
I am great, and thanks for having me. It's hard to believe the holidays are almost here.
And they're here.
I know.
Previous year, and now we're doing it all over again.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about you. You bring more than 30 years of experience in wealth management, which I think is so impressive. Tell me about your inspiration for helping others make better financial decisions.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, I started in banking. My dad had community banks. And I kept seeing clients coming in, and the biggest stress they had was money. And he kind of put me in this rotation system, and I started doing some of the lending areas. And I just thought, if I can find a way in my life to take this stress, I love numbers, I love people, and I wanted to have people have less stress. So I got into the wealth management business. I started in public accounting, and then I went into banking, and then started my own firm in 2005.
Awesome. Was math a strength of yours when you were in grade school?
Always. I used to play with the calculator and play with the numbers. I thought math was so easy. I always loved math. And to me, it was always a challenge to try to solve the problems. And it was always a joy for me. So love math.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. So with Christmas time and the season of gift giving, let's talk about holiday spending now. So when should we start budgeting for holiday gifts? When's the best time?
The best time is in January when you set your overall budget. I know that's kind of seems like it's far off, but you want to put that as part of your overall budget, almost have a line item for gifts. It's not just holiday spending, but you have birthday gifts. You might have weddings coming up this year. You may have other big expenses for gifts. So a gift should be definite line item on your budget.
Wow, that's interesting to hear you say January. I thought maybe you would say summer, but January could be like planning for the entire year and kind of thinking like a business's fiscal year in a sense.
Right. I mean, you need to revisit it as time goes by and making sure you're in line with your budget. I also recommend, at holiday time, maybe having a budget per person that you're buying a gift for, so that you at least have a plan and you're not doing a lot of impulse buying and spending money that's not aligned with the budget.
Wow. Okay. So what are your tips and secrets to smart holiday shopping? For those of us that have not started planning in January, we reached the point where now we're online shopping, all the deals are coming through. How can we navigate through the idea of smart holiday shopping?
Yeah, I mean, again, like you mentioned before, think of this as kind of like running your own little business here. You have the budget per person. Then maybe make another column of what is the item or what do you want to purchase, and do your research, because there's a lot, you open your Facebook, you open Instagram, there's a lot of advertisements, but the first thing you see isn't always the best deal. So I have a few tips here. First of all, do your research, see if you have any coupons out there. And when you go to buy the item, don't buy the first thing you see, especially on some of these retailing sites and Amazon. The first item isn't always the cheapest, but also think of the total cost. It's the item, the shipping, the processing, any other costs that are involved. Make sure you understand the return policies, because you don't want to buy a gift so early and the person might need to return it and might have a problem with the return policies. So that's really important as well.
Awesome. So you spoke to the Amazons and all the stores that are, starting to roll out all the Black Friday deals and things like that. So, retailers often promote those deep discounts. And like you said, the top one usually isn't the cheapest, which in their minds, they're thinking that they're enticing consumers to spend more. Are we really saving when we buy a ton of items on sale? Because you feel like if you're shopping on the clearance racks or the sales rack, or, oh, there's a 40% off sale at Macy's, etc. Are we really saving when we buy a lot of things at one time?
Right. And as my dad once said to my mom when she was so happy with our holiday shopping and all these discounts, he's like, well, these discounts are actually costing me money too. So you have to look at the whole picture. But there's a principle called scarcity where they try to tempt you. They say only 3 items left. 85 people are looking at this right now. Just take your time. You don't have to click and buy the first thing that you see. Also, buyer beware. There's something called buy now, pay later. And you want to make sure that you can afford the items and they are in your budget, because it's so easy to click. And the buy now, pay later, you buy an item and then you pay over 4 installments. And if you're late, there's additional fees there. So just, be careful when you're shopping. You get excited. And another tip I often say, some of the best gifts that I've received have not been monetary gifts. They've been pictures. They've been a poem one of my daughters gave me. Maybe you'll make a dinner for a family member, baking cookies. It doesn't always have to be something that's bought at the store. Sometimes the most emotional gifts and sentimental gifts are the best.
Oh, that's a really thoughtful idea too. And then, if it like really encourages you to think outside of the box too, especially. So sometimes holiday spending can get away from us. How can we avoid the guilt of making large purchases on the flip side of that?
Yeah, and it's not just a guilt when you make purchases for others. It's often, if you buy something for yourself. So I kind of have a 2-question approach. When you're buying a gift, is it really falling? In the book, I talk a lot about values. So do you think the person that you're buying this gift for is going to truly value this gift? Do you feel value giving this gift? And the second question, does it fit and is it in line with your budget? And if you can answer those 2 questions with a yes, move on, move forward, forget the guilt. But if you can't answer yes to both of those questions, then you might have to revisit that purchase and make sure that it's really in line with both those questions.
I really appreciate the psychology element to purchases, because, we really dissect why we purchase things, why we respond to the ad, even if it's something we don't need, oh, it's 40% off. Why did you have to go? Did you need new boots?
Right. I mean, you always set this framework. So, an item that's 100 that is now $40, you think, wow, I have to buy it. It's such a good deal. But is it within your values? Do you think the person you're buying for is really going to appreciate it? And just because it's $40, maybe it's not the right purchase. So I often, I do like that a lot of people are shopping online, because I think it can get very nerve-wracking and there's a lot of impulse buys when you go into a store. But again, when you go online, just take a breath, have a little sheet, write down what you're buying. And if you spend more on one person, unfortunately, maybe you need to spend less on the next person. But if you can creep pretty quickly. You spend $10, $15 more on the first person, then the second, then the third. All of a sudden, you're spending $100 more than you anticipated with the budget. So just be careful, enjoy it, enjoy giving the gifts. I don't want to be a buzzkill here with the holidays, but just take your time and enjoy, because it is the holiday season.
And we also have to live after the holiday.
Exactly. I have you'll on every interview I have, I quote my dad, who says, you can have anything you want, not everything. So when you think of what you're buying, they can't have everything. So just buy something that you really think will be important.
My next guest is the host of a hot new podcast, The Dating After Divorce Survival Guide, providing its listeners with a path to emotional well-being and striking down misconceptions about divorce. He's personally survived divorce and has made it his mission to help others do the same. Eric Payne, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you today? Eric Payne, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. Well, let's dive on in. You
Okay.
have overcome some very difficult experiences yourself surrounding divorce. What was your personal secret to bouncing back afterwards?
I think so. It was a slow but sure process. I'm not gonna like act in any way, shape, or form like it was easy. I believe that the first and foremost thing that you have to do is accept. I think I think for me, once I learned how to accept the space that I was in and be grateful for the space that I was in, that's when life started to turn around and get better. But as long as I was wanting for what I used to have or afraid that I couldn't do moving forward, that's when I was in trouble.
Who helped you? Did you have a support system, a family, or friends, your faith, that helped you through this recovery period? Since you said it was a slow process.
Yeah, it was a combination. I think I had a group of mentors that I kind of assembled together, something in my spirit. And from a church service, I learned that, you should have a council of elders like Solomon's, council. So I put that together. It was a group of older men, a couple of older women, faith for sure. I've always been a faithful individual growing up on the south side of Chicago. I'm a Methodist. And I think it was just one of those things where, I'm sorry, to directly answer your question. I had that group, and then I had some friends that kind of like weren't as supportive. So the two were juxtaposed against each other. Now, they were all supportive, but I mean supportive like with advice that's helpful.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, in a sense, I guess also it's a journey you had to go through on your own, in a lot of ways, in terms of healing. And so it's one thing to overcome something challenging. We've all experienced our own sort of challenges, but there's something special about wanting to help others in a similar situation. So where does your affinity for helping other divorcees stem from?
Okay, so when I was going through my challenges, because yes, I did get divorced, but there were a series of events that my divorce was mixed in the middle of. And I was, it was one blow after another, after another, after another. And I have to be honest, kind of like any biblical story or any, anti-hero story, it was suggested, oh, Eric, it would be really great when you come out on the other side of this, if you could help people. My response to that was not positive at all. My reaction was, I am not going through this for anyone else. This sucks. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. But I have this statement that let time have its way. Time passed. I got divorced in 2015. Around 2019, I was in a different space, and I just felt compelled, like those words that have been poured into me about, you should share your story. As a storyteller, I think you'd have a great opinion, that kind of thing. And I think from a divine perspective, God wanted me to tell his story. And I had my ideas of stories that I wanted to tell, but this was put on me. This is my story. The things that happened to me in my life happened so that I could not claim that I did anything. You know what I mean? So with that said, I just moved into this space where it just made sense. Several people had made subtle suggestions along the way. And then when it finally came down to it, I said, I think I can do this, because I moved from a place where I was angry and bitter and possibly manifestoing, if you will, about, these things, men versus women and divorce and all that stuff, to a place where I believe and I hope that I give fair and balanced perspective on these things.
I think it's really courageous to be so transparent, because, it sounds like one of the hardest things you've had to deal with in life, and then although it's different, you're still reliving it, you're still recounting it, because there's the power in the story,
Right.
So I commend you, for taking something that was very challenging, reliving it, but kind of remix it in a special way that not only encourages someone else, but it kind of continues to propel your healing through it,
Correct.
So how long have you been hosting the Dating After Divorce Survival Guide podcast?
I began it in November of 2019. So roughly, actually we're coming up on, I'm sorry, it actually passed. My 2-year anniversary passed on the 4th of November. No, actually, sorry, let me correct myself. The anniversary was the 11th, Veterans Day. I actually dropped the trailer on November 4th. So yeah, Veterans Day.
So you've been at this for 2 years. You've recorded countless episodes. Tell me about it. Do you have guests on the podcast? Is it you, speaking your gems? What do your listeners, what's in store for your listeners?
Okay, so the format, it's a serial podcast, which is different from the episodic where you're just interviewing people like the way we're discussing things right now. So essentially what happened, and I believe it all was intended to be, I had a whole lineup. I planned to be the thought leader and the host and the interviewee and so on and so forth. And literally half of my roster of guests bailed on me during the times that I was supposed to be recording for them. And I had already put it out into the universe that I was going to do this. So I said to myself, well, what am I going to do? And then something kind of came over my spirit, and my best friend whispered in my ear. He said, look, why don't you just talk about what you went through, and maybe even talk the way you talk to me? Because I'm pretty animated when I tell stories and when I talk to my boys or whatever. So I kind of did that. I tried out the first episode. It sounded absolutely ridiculous to me. When I recorded it, I edited it, and then I was sitting there listening to it, and I said, this is insane. Like, no one's going to listen to this. This is probably the wildest thing I've ever done. And 3 days later, 300 or 400 people had listened to it. So I said to myself, well, okay. And then I just started storytelling from that point forward. Now, I do have a couple bonus episodes where I do interview people, but for the most part, it's a serial where I'm just literally telling the story. And what is the story? The story is when I decide to get back out there. So that was roughly 2018. Get back out there, meaning try to date.
Okay. Now how's it going now in 2021?
It's going all right. It's going all right. I think for me personally, yes, it's going all right. I enjoy dating. I enjoy meeting people because I learn who I am. I learn how I am when I meet people. I think a lot of times people are afraid to get out there because they don't want to be hurt. You mentioned something about transparency and vulnerability. So I draw power by calling a thing a thing. So if I keep my story to myself, then it has power over me. The second that I tell it, even if it makes me seem weak or corny or whatever, well, I'm no longer corny because I told the story. You know what I mean? Or at least that's the way I think about it in my mind. So, yeah.
Well, you are not corny, you are brave. What misconceptions do you break down for your listeners about the topic of divorce? I know there's a very valuable message specifically for your male listeners. And what's that?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I went through when I was going through it, which is divorce, and then even the moments that happened after, like the denouement, after the crash and burn, is that you're going through it alone. And I try to, by being so transparent, I try to let people know that you're not alone. Now, you are going through it by yourself because your path is your path, but there are other people that have been through the same thing. And I try to exist as proof that you can come out on the other side with a smile, with a pep in your step, with, brave and just, I don't want to say start over, because starting over means that I go back to one, and I'm not one, you know what I mean? But you can go off in a different direction than the path that you thought that you were on and thrive. And honestly, I think that path might be the intended path for you to begin with. It's unfortunate, divorce is absolutely unfortunate, but sometimes, these things happen and it doesn't have to be the end. It's a turning point. So you don't have to die. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay there.
Right. And I think that's I'm sorry to cut you off. That's an excellent point to drive home, that there's life after divorce, there's
Right.
value after the divorce,
Right.
And whether you're like you starting a podcast after, or writing a book, which I hope you do write a book, or writing a book, or starting a business, or whatever is on the other side of your next chapter. I think that you have done a fantastic job of just encouraging anyone who might be watching to, live and thrive, after, should divorce come. My next guest is a singer, songwriter, and musician who has sung background for recording artists like Kiki Wyatt and Mario, and opened up for recording artists like Erykah Badu and K. Michelle. Today, he and I will discuss his album, Mixed Emotions, his musical influences, and how his upbringing in church has cultivated his artistry today. Kevin Hawkins, welcome to the Chundria Show. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So let's dive on in. Let's talk about it. How would you describe your sound?
I would describe my sound like it's very eclectic. It's like modern day R&B mixed with traditional R&B, but it's definitely some of if I had to put into three people, it's definitely like a mix of Prince or John Legend and like Beyonce and Whitney Houston, like all four tied into one.
And when, in your opinion, what do these artists have in common, and why are they your musical inspirations?
Well, they're all great in their own way, but they're really great entertainers. Particularly when I say entertainers, I look at Beyonce and Prince for entertainment. I look at Whitney Houston and John Legend for more of like the singing aspect. But Beyonce and Prince, they can sing just as well too. But that's what I look at them for, you know, the entertainment aspect. So got a little pull from each one of them. I look at Prince for his musicianship a lot as well, and Whitney Houston for like her vocal agility and things like that. Yeah. So that's how I put them all together. And that's what makes Kevin Hawkins.
All right, I love it. So tell me about your album, Mixed Emotions, and what journey you take your listeners on with your music.
So from the title cut, the first song is mixed emotions, and then it goes all the way into loving yourself. But it's basically like a balance of, you know, everything that I've been through as far as like, it has so many aspects of it. Like I said, the traditional R&B, and then the current vibe of R&B. And then as far as like my battle with, you know, with my relationships, and then my battle between like I guess you could say the worldly life and the, you know, growing up in church, like those two concepts. And then my struggles between being single and being in relationships and stuff. So that's pretty much, it all ties into one. That's where mixed emotions come from. The highs, the lows, the good, the bad, and all the in-betweens and stuff.
So on these songs, when you produced the album, was there anybody that, you know, who did you collaborate with that you can talk about?
I collaborated with Mo3. He's from Dallas. Well, he was from Dallas, Texas. He actually died. He was killed last year, literally like a year ago, like a couple of days ago. And he was actually definitely on the rise. He's a rapper that was out of here in Dallas. And then I did a song with one of my good friends. Her name is Haley Elmore. But as far as like producers, I used Yarborough Peoples. They were really famous for the song Don't Stop the Music in the 80s. I did some stuff with Nick Seeley. He's responsible for writing like and producing some of Ariana Grande's and The Weeknd's hits and stuff like Sound Injury, a lot of that. And then I did some stuff with Eric Morgan. He's really popular for working on like Kurt Franklin's like early albums. So I definitely worked with some heavy hitters when it came to you know, the engineering and the producing side. And then when it came to like features, I used a lot of my close relationships that I have with my friends and stuff, you know, things like that, to bring them over and just make the connection and everything, you know, opening the door for helping open the door for other people too. I'm all about
you
that.
Kept it in the family, I hear.
Yep. That's
Now, your artistry involves a lot of creativity, a lot of vivid color schemes, you know, from the artwork on your album cover to your wardrobe, and even the use of color and imagery in your music videos. Speak to why vivid imagery is a part of your brand.
I like to consider myself like an eclectic person, or, you know, like metrosexual, but for me, I love colors. And I feel like, particularly as a Black man, a lot of times people, you know, they try to stick to like the basics and stuff. But I feel like when people see me, they're gonna know I'm gonna wear something, but it works for me. Like how Rihanna had used to mix up her hair all the time, but it always works for her. Like when it comes to my clothing, like I've worn some of the craziest outfits, but people were like, you know what? I never thought about putting that two and two together, but it works. And same thing when they see with my pictures, like the colors, they're always vibrant, and they're always going to be loud. They're always going to be like in your face, popping. It's going to catch your eye no matter what it comes to my promotion. Because I mean, we can all do black, white, and grays all day. And don't get me wrong, I love a great picture. You know, a great picture, a black and white great picture can speak 1,000 words. But I love a vibrant picture. It's just more eye-catchy. That's definitely when it comes to the vivid imagery in the videos. I'm just a colorful person at the end of the day. Like, I mean, you can see it's like my nails and everything. Like, you know, that's just me.
I love that you bring this wow factor in a sense,
Yeah.
you know, and it's something that it sounds like people come to expect from you, you know, so that's a great part of your brand to have as well. Now, your love of music dates back to playing piano at your father's church as a child. Were you encouraged to play at church, or did you ask to do so?
Well, I mean, it was kind of, I actually started off doing classical lessons first before I even played in the church. I switched teachers when around the time I was like 10 or 11. But I didn't start playing in the church until like right around middle school. And my dad kind of pushed me, because my dad's a pastor, he kind of pushed me into playing for the church because he wanted me to become the church musician. As a young kid, you're like, but that's his vision, but I have my own vision. But that was definitely his vision. He wanted me to play in the church. So I would definitely say my dad swayed me into playing for the church. It wasn't like just a decision that I wanted to make.
But then you went on to be the music director. So you kind of were swayed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How was that experience, and how does it resonate in your music, your discipline, and your sound today?
Well, I would say as far as that aspect of it, learning how to talk and communicate with people and, controlling like a particular department, or, like, I guess you could say it's like you're managing, a department, it definitely helped cross over into my music, because like I have dancers on my team. I have, an MD, a music director. I have a full band. I have singers, and it helps me communicate so much more effectively because I've already had that training and experience prior to. So I've always felt like, I know how to handle certain situations when I feel like my back is against the wall. I don't, just lash out at anybody. I'm always very professional. And I definitely think like being the music director and dealing with, you ever think about it, I was a music director as a child, dealing with people that are grown adults. So they used to always feel like, well, I don't have to listen to him because he's younger, but it helped me navigate situations that I'm dealing with currently in my life right now. So I don't let them, I don't let that kind of stuff like get to me, if that makes sense.
You sound very strong-willed, very
Yeah.
determined, and then to have that discipline at such an early age, to be a kid in classical training, the typical kid is like doing what, playing video games after school, like you're on the classical music training. Like, that's dope. So tell me about the support of your old school parents, extended family, your church family, your friends, your followers, your fans, and how it helped you thrive throughout your career. Because you have a great support system, it sounds like.
It's so funny because how people say the older they get, like the smaller their friend circle gets. I literally, people be like, how many best friends you got? And I'll be like, probably about a good 6 or 7. Like, it's so crazy for me because I've literally had the same friends for years. We've never and if we had any type of disagreement, it's never been like too long where we had like a fallout or anything. But all of my friends have been the same. Like of course, my family, they're not going anywhere, but everybody's been so supportive. Nobody ever told me that I couldn't sing. Nobody ever told me that I couldn't play, I couldn't perform. It was just how, I think their message to me was how you're going to go about putting yourself out there. That was always, but everybody's always been like consistently supporting me at like 100%. Like I have a concert this weekend in Dallas, and the first people to always buy tickets are my close friends and family. Like they are just super, super, super supportive. Anything that I've ever asked them to be a part of, everybody just shows up, but I reciprocate that support towards them. Whenever they're having something, I do the same. So like my family and friends, it was just like a bunch of tight-knit, group of people,
Oh, I love that. That is heartwarming.
Come with me, I'm headed down the right path. I feel so brave, my head held high and I'm showing class.